I want to talk about something important today, and it's your ability to succeed in the insurance business. You see, the vast majority of agents fail for a number of reasons, and typically it's not because of what most people think it is. And what I wanted to do in this video today is give you some insight as to why I think I've had success in my business on a consistent basis. And if anything, parlay my wisdom to you, predominantly those of you who are aspiring, new, or struggling with selling insurance, in order to avoid the mistakes that so many agents make so that you can see longevity in this business, you can see success in this business, and avoid the failure rate that is so incredibly high. So we're going to jump right in. So the one thing I think that, and there's many things, none of these are in any particular order, and if I sound arrogant saying any of this stuff, it's not meant to be. Take it for what it's worth. Apply it to you if it makes sense. If not, toss it out. But the first thing on the list here is a stable personal life. I can't tell you how many agents I've seen in my agency and that I've conversed with personally throughout the years that are miles ahead of my skill set. And I'm a pretty good agent, not the greatest, not bad agent, but a good agent. They're better than I ever was. They wrote way more business than I ever had. But their personal lives are just not together enough to consistently execute in a way that gives sustainable long-term results. So a couple of things I want to mention on this. First of all, no judgment if you're going through personal times. We all do. And really, on some level, you're going to, regardless of whether or not you fix your personal problems, you're going to have to figure out how to endure anyway. Just like anything in life, nobody succeeds anything great in a vacuum where there isn't adversaries or obstacles in the way. So don't let these personal issues be an excuse. Certainly try to minimize them, but you need to overcome the adversity anyway. I'll give you a couple examples with me. And some of the stuff, look, y'all might have some criticism on, and that's fine. For example, I failed out of the business. I went back to work. I worked all the time on a part-time basis and a full-time job with a Fortune 500 company. I would come home at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock every night. Back then we sold in the field. And I barely saw my son. I barely saw my wife. I was off just on Sundays. And then she got pregnant with twins. And literally the weekend that she delivered the twins, I went back to work full-time, quit my full-time job and went full-time in the final expense, 6 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day with maybe like 10-hour days for the part-time days. Did my wife enjoy that? Absolutely not. And if you ladies out there or men have twins, you know how much of a burden that is on your time and your energy and your emotional state. But I made that commitment because I knew that I couldn't let anything substantially get in the way of accomplishing my goals, because adversity has a way of pulling you back into mediocrity. And so you guys, my advice to you is to assess your life if this sounds like something that resonates with you. Figure out how to overcome despite the odds that you're facing, okay? It is not easy. It never was easy to be successful at anything in life. You're not privileged or gifted anything. You start with nothing. And it's only through your consistency and effort and overcoming the odds that you can maybe hope to, there's no promises either, have something extraordinary, okay? So overcome your personal problems if you have them, or learn to deal with them in spite of them so that you can succeed in selling insurance successfully. Number two, this is a big problem, especially with agents that get traction, that have talent, but then run against these, again, in a sense, a personal problem. You really need to act as if you are poor, okay? You may already be poor. Congratulations. When you make your first $5,000 or $10,000 in commission, don't stop acting poor. Continue to act as if you were. The biggest mistake a lot of new agents make that see success is they go out and blow their money on stuff they don't need or have to have. I rented my house up until 5 years ago. I refused to buy a home because I didn't want to put a huge down payment down. I was very conservative with how I dealt with my money. I, as much as possible, avoided debt, paid my debt down so I could have as minimal cash expenditures every single month. I didn't go on a vacation for 5 or 6 years with my family. Again, sacrifice, but I did not want to take financial unnecessary risks. Again, you decide if that's right for you. It may not be. But the principle is true, is you need to, since you're probably on a straight commission or something close to it where you depend a lot on what your commission is, you need to act as if you're poor until you've developed a significant bankroll, a significant sum of cash that gives you confidence that the ups and the downs of the business aren't going to throw you out if you have a couple of bad weeks. For me, that was when I hit $50,000. When I had 50 grand in the bank, I remember the feeling. I was like, dang, bad weeks don't really feel as bad because I know I've been doing this long enough that good weeks will come later and I can weather the storms that much better. Okay. So don't spend all your money. Don't buy stupid crap. Okay. Play conservative with your money until you develop bankroll. The other thing you need to think is, and this is just a bigger perspective, kind of ties in with the last point, ability to think ahead beyond your next paycheck. Again, you need to be saving money. You need to be thinking, where are you going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? What are your goals ultimately for this business? You may come to work with my agency. Final expense may be it for you, and that's totally fine. It can be. But maybe you want to build an agency. Maybe you want to cross-sell different products or jump from one product to another as you build into it. Have some vision and some direction in your life. Don't just think, I just got to make this bill payment. I know when you're in the moat and you're up to your neck with alligators all around you, like that's all you can think, but you have to find space in those beginning times to envision and see what's not just next week, but next year, next 5 years, next 10 years. That strategy helped me tremendously. And there's a couple of things from a narrative standpoint you want to tell yourself that help with impressing that vision upon yourself, because you got to believe the vision first before anybody else does. From a sales standpoint, it's really important to develop short-term amnesia. Some of y'all, and I would know because I'm very, very critical of myself, you are too critical. You worry too much. You think that because you had a bad day or a bad week, that means you suck or the business is over. I'm here to tell you that is the norm of the business. You have good weeks, you have bad weeks, even when you do everything right, okay? And what you want to work on, and this is really a function of just time on task, doing this long enough, you really want to care, but not that much, and have a sense of faith that things will pan out this way. And it's hard to believe this at first, but after you do this for a year or two, you really see that this is true. That, some days will be great, some days won't be. But if you develop this like ability to wake up the next morning after a good or bad day and be like, look, it's a new day, it's a clean slate, I'm excited to go help people, let's get at it. If you can develop that perspective, that especially helps you when you've had a really bad time and you're being hard on yourself, but it also helps you if you've just like crushed it and you're like flexing and you feel awesome, and then you have a bad day and then you feel real bad because that whole high is taken away from you. You really want to be as balanced as possible. It took me about 3 years before my wife, when I came home, couldn't tell if I had a great day or bad day. And my wish for you is to develop that short-term amnesia and its ability to keep your head straight sooner than 3 years like yours truly. Other things here that are important, you need to have an absolute 100% focus on the mission. Some of this stuff I'm about to tell you sounds a little corny or weird, but I've had to tell myself things and stories and create narratives in my mind to help me keep the vision of what I originally set out to do, and then to also see through it to its very end, and then beyond the idea that I even had originally, which is just making good money selling insurance. I have a sense of destiny, and I think you should cultivate that too. Here's what I tell myself. My father sold his business when I was in my teenage years or early 20s and retired, very successful. My grandfather had a great sales business he did very well at, lived a good life. My uncle had, in part, started XM Radio. And so I see myself as having the duty, the obligation to fulfill the what they laid for me. As a man, I can't not be successful. I would be letting them down. In my mind, I have to carry the torch of the family name and what it means to be a DeFord or what it means to be a Logan, my mom's side of the family. And so that's really a constant thing in my mind, that I have to fulfill the family obligation. Now, you may not be privileged like I was by having this family and this background, but you have to think about things that are impactful. Many of you out there had family 150, 200 years ago were slaves. Look where you are now. Look what you can do that your great-great-great-great-grandparents and beyond never even had the seeming chance to do. Some of you are immigrants, multiple generations away, where your family came from nothing. They took a risk to get here to live out the American dream. And you came from that line of people over multiple generations. And I think there's something about fulfilling the family obligation to be the best that you can be, to get to the next level. And despite the difficulties and adversity that you're going to feel, to fulfill that obligation to what your family lived through, sacrificed, died for, you should have a sense of that. You really should. When I believed that and thought that and took that into effect, this became more than just about making money. It became something greater than that. And if you're listening to this and you can see that, that's good. That's a start. That's going to help you see something beyond just going out there and, getting the basics, covering the basics. A couple other things. You have to be able to endure difficulties. Look, I endured frustration as an agent when I failed out in 2012. I endured embarrassment of having this kind of mentality and then not succeeding in getting it, because you'll have this idea and then you'll struggle for many years, as many of us do who make it to the top. And it takes a while to culminate that, but you still have to believe it despite dissonance of what you're experiencing is not what you think you should, based off of how kind of the stories you tell yourself. You've got to deal with failure. You got to be okay with it. And I can tell you, even now in my agency building, there's nothing that's been more powerful for us at the Dig Agency and our team than failing, making huge, costly mistakes. We have learned so much from those. You never stop learning, and failure more than success is what if you have the right mindset, is what drives you to the next level. So embrace failure. Just learn from it, right? It's like Gus said from Breaking Bad, you can make a mistake, but don't make it more than once. Learn from it. And you're going to have to also endure issues and criticism from loved ones. I've told this on several videos before. My wife, the only thing she wanted for me to do, I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, is to go work for Tennessee Valley Authority, get a stable job, maybe work my way up to a six-figure income, and have 4 to 6 weeks off a year. That's all she ever wanted from me. I couldn't ever swallow that, for me personally. And I would rather in my 20s take the risk of being wrong, but applying myself diligently in order to hit that at one point in the future. And thank God I did that. But I had to endure not having support. And y'all think you have to have like complete support and everything has to be an agreement. No. Leadership is about leading the way ahead of the pack. Everybody will follow you eventually and appreciate you and say you were right, but not in the beginning. So if you feel compelled that you have to have buy-in from everybody, you don't. This is your life. This is what you want to accomplish. And if you feel so strongly about it, taking a chance, most Americans don't want to risk anything. A lot of your family's in that boat. So you're going to be alone. Get used to it. They'll follow eventually, but you got to be the leader when it comes to this. Again, going all in, kind of this encompasses everything. I've always been all in. I've always been consistent. Well, after the first time I failed, when I came back the second time. I was all in, I had the mindset, the consistency, the dedication. You can't just have this for a week or a month. You're going to have adversity, and that's the thing that challenges this belief. And it's what you do in those difficult times that determines exactly, are you actually going to endure or not? But this is what tests your mettle, your character, right? But it's going through this, but still going. That's going to allow you to consistently stay with it. Again, people who are fully dedicated don't have doubts. They don't wonder if they should do something else. They make a decision to recommit over and over and over again. And those recommissions or recommittals from month to month, quarter to quarter, eventually add up to years and years and years. And what I've discovered is because I have, and this is really huge, because I have stuck with the fundamentals and I have stuck with the basics, longer, stronger, harder than the other people that started in the early aughts or early teens, I'm miles ahead of most people. I'm not being arrogant. I'm just saying, like, I had every adversity they did, but I chose to continue. And you have to have that mindset. And one thing I'll say, it's easier. If you give yourself, you should give yourself more time to be successful. This business really takes, it's between the 5 and 10 year mark where you really hit your stride financially, where that's where most people see the greatest increases in income. That's what I saw. After about 7 or 8 years, like, my income became exponential, okay? And my opportunity was huge. But it's because I put in, and nobody sees this. They think you're a success overnight. They don't see what you did in that first 6 years, the sacrifice, the commitments you made, the things you said no to in order to stay focused on the one thing. They don't see that. They never will, because they wouldn't appreciate it. Because it's the culmination of all that gets you to that hockey stick point where your income goes through the roof and your capability and success, it just is exponential. Last thing I'll add here before we wrap it up is it's always helped me to have a fear of poverty. And look, when you sell final expense in person, all due respect to our clients, you know what the fear of poverty looks like. I don't want to end up old, sick, out of shape, nobody around to love me, and broke on top of all that. And not being able to have freedom and a sense of autonomy. These are the things that money enables a lot more easier than if you didn't have it, okay? And so having that fear of regression and having to depend on somebody other than myself and my ability, it's just completely counter to the essence of who I am. And I just could not ever compromise with that. So in short, I hope this little lecture here helps those, especially those of you who are new and you're wondering what it takes to be successful, but also those of you out there who are struggling. I know what it's like to struggle. Business is a struggle extraordinaire. You will struggle in this business. It ain't ever going to stop, okay? Embrace it. Embrace the suck. But understand and look at the struggle the right way. It is opportunity looking back at you. What is your struggle telling you? What can you learn from this to get better? Don't just get mad and get frustrated and point the finger and be a victim. Tell yourself, I am responsible for the outcomes in my life and what I do with what I have. And empower yourself. It really is about empowerment. It's really the glue that binds everything together I said today. Empower yourself to be responsible for your life. And give yourself the time to be successful in this business. It's going to take years. Anybody tells you it's overnight success, ain't been around that long. And I do hope that this little motivational talk motivates you. If you guys are interested in learning more about the Dig Agency, we specialize in final expense telesales and providing free leads, head over to davidduford.com. Thanks.